This is an intro into research methods used in psychology. Psychology is considered a science because it's supported with research and empirical data. Many people ask why psychologists should collect research to support their theories. Many ask, can't you pretty much predict how people will act? However, that is a misconception. How many times have you ever found yourself thinking, why would anyone do that? So the way we think people should act is not always the way they do act. Therefore, we have to use critical thinking in psychology. In other words, conduct research and gather data to support our ideas and theories. It cannot be just based on intuition or common sense. In addition, there are flaws in our thought process. We're going to look at 3 of them in this video. The first flaw we call hindsight bias. This is the idea that we think we knew the outcome of an event, but we only say so after hearing the results. I like to call this Monday morning quarterbacking. On Monday, it's easy to say, oh, I knew that team was going to win yesterday. But in reality, we only say that after we hear the results. A second flaw in our thought process we call overconfidence. This is thinking that we are better or know more than we actually do. One example, I often hear students saying, oh, I don't need to study for this test. I know the information. And then when they sit down and go to take the test, they're thinking, yes, I probably should have studied because they felt overconfident. When taking polls, U.S. drivers tend to consider themselves to be very proficient in their age group. Again, overconfidence. Once again, referring to football, I've heard many people say while watching a game, I can't believe they didn't catch that ball. I could have caught that ball. Again, thinking we're better than we actually are. The third flaw in our thought process we call the false consensus effect. This is the idea we have that others share our beliefs or our opinions. For example, have you ever watched a movie, TV show, or Netflix series and absolutely loved it? And you start telling others about it, thinking that they will share your enthusiasm. And then you come to find out that others don't like it, and you're thinking, what the heck, because you thought it was great. And we tend to think others also will believe like we do. That's how I feel whenever I talk to someone who doesn't like The Office. Psychology is considered a science. Psychologists use the same scientific method that you're used to from other science classes. For example, the first step is to identify a problem or formulate a hypothesis and theory. The second is to design a study. The third, carry out or perform the study. The fourth step is to evaluate your data that you've collected and draw conclusions. Did you prove your hypothesis to be correct or incorrect? And finally, you must communicate your results. 2 terms that students often confuse with the scientific method is theory and hypothesis. A theory predicts behavior or events. It's a principle. A hypothesis is how you're going to test that prediction or theory. So testable is your key with hypothesis. And if you look at the image on the side, here's a good example. A theory may be that low self-esteem feeds depression. How are you going to test that will be your hypothesis. So you can see in this example, people with low self-esteem will score higher on a depression scale. So they would take a depression scale survey. Replication involves repeating the research study. And many research studies that are conducted are replicated to see if you get the same results. And finally, whenever you're conducting research, you have to actually explain in real life terms exactly what you mean in your hypothesis and your research. This is referred to as operational definition. So you're defining your operations. For example, if your hypothesis is that eating chocolate causes violent behavior, you have to specify what exactly do you mean by chocolate? Is it milk chocolate? Is it white chocolate? How much chocolate is it? And what do you mean by violent behavior? Is it kicking, punching, or being verbally abusive? So actually specifying in real life terms what you mean.